Now, I've spoken at length about trying to find your proper match when it comes to finding a partner for BDSM. I'm going to go into a bit more specifics here, at least from our good friend, the book Screw the Roses, Send Me the Thorns. And this is on page 40. The heading is called Looking for Mr. Good Dom. There's also a submissive version here that we'll get to in a moment. Besides all the warm and wonderful character traits found in your ideal lover, here are a few additional requirements for a dominant with the right stuff. He should be 1. Someone with whom you communicate well. You may be a regular motor mouth with your friends, but seal up tighter than a clam when you're with your lover. SM requires a solid, steady stream of communication to keep your relationship safe and satisfying. The guy you find may be hotter than a rocket, but if you cannot find a way to tune into the same wavelength, find yourself another more well-guided missile. 2. Someone who is careful. His first concern is always safety. 3. Someone who respects your limits. It is fine to gradually broaden your submissive's horizons or to coax a hesitant sub into some experimentation. The good dom will not push or coerce his submissive into anything she really doesn't want to do. 4. Someone who knows his own limitations. He won't attempt to carry out that which is beyond his capabilities. He must be willing to take the time to plan, research, practice, and seek training when needed. 5. Someone who values his submissive and considers her his equal. In role, you do what makes you happy. When it is time to drop the fantasy, each of you is a full and equal partner. 6. Someone who considers the enjoyment of his partner on par with his own pleasure. 7. Someone who knows the difference between fantasy and reality. 8. Someone willing to try everything that he intends for his partner on his own body first. While he may not enjoy a whip stroke, he must understand its feel. And 9. Someone who is patient and kind. He will take the time to understand his submissive. Now, I've talked about these things in the past. It is exceedingly important, both as a dominant and as a submissive seeking a dominant, that before anything really happens, you have a sense that this person is trustworthy. That someone's not telling stories out of school, not, inflating their own sense of self-importance to you just because they happen to be a dominant or want to play that role. So it takes some time, and, it does end up being a bit of a judgment call on your part, if you're the submissive seeking a dominant, as to whether this person is, worthy of you, so to speak. Now, in regular dating situations, when you're just dealing with sort of cursory feeling around the areas of, do I feel compatible with this person, am I interested in them, etc., I think BDSM, at least if the intent in seeking a relationship is involving BDSM and is blatantly involving BDSM, then you have a few more options in how you investigate or interrogate your potential partner, because you both know exactly what your stated goal is. There's no ambiguity, at least in the sexual side of things. And so you can more easily, I think, ask probing questions and get very specific about your wants, needs, and desires to try to filter out if there's someone who you're not quite comfortable with. And always remember, even if you're the submissive, when it comes down to negotiation, when it comes down to figuring out if this person might or might not be your partner, you are in control. I understand that this is a paradox for some people who are outside of the lifestyle, and it might even be a paradox to people who are not familiar with the lifestyle but feel those urges within them. The submissive, in many ways, is in far more control of the situation, especially in the negotiation phase, than the dominant. But you're both seeking a partner. You're both seeking a companion in this activity or in this journey together. So each of you has an equal stake in saying no or saying yes. Even if you're the submissive, you do not lack any control. You don't have a lower percentage of say in what happens, necessarily. Now, on the flip side, for the dominant, and this is on page 41, seeking suitable submissives. Care for a game of Capture the Flagellant? While the Dom is nominally in charge, the characteristics of a good submissive are no less important in making an SM relationship work. You want a partner with whom you can communicate, a person willing to risk telling you something that she thinks you may not want to hear. Communication from your submissive is important on another level too. She has a responsibility to tell you if you are going too far or if something is wrong with her. This is particularly difficult for a submissive. It is one of the paradoxes of SM. In the fantasy, she is yours to do with as you will, yet you are both playing for mutual pleasure. She must find a way to say that this or that turns her off without feeling like she'll break the spell. You want her to share her whims also, so you can satisfy them. Beyond this, your perfect submissive will be 1. Someone who respects herself. 2. Someone who doesn't want real abuse. 3. Someone who has a good sense of reality versus fantasy. 4. Someone who is not looking for you to take over her life, but to enhance it. 5. Someone you can trust not to blame you later for dominating her. For example, avoid someone who might ask to be, quote, taken sexually, then cry rape. 6. Someone wise enough to let you learn who she is, what pleases her, and what she wants. Good communication is a critical factor in any relationship, but in SM, a lack of it can be devastating. And 7. Someone who does not make demands. Pushiness on the part of a submissive or a dominant is a turnoff. There may be something your submissive wants that you are not prepared to give her because you cannot bring yourself to do it, are not trained for it, don't like it, or feel that it's not safe and sane. On the other hand, you do want a submissive who will tell you what she wants, enjoys, and expects. Now, I don't have any, I guess I should say, rules for seeking a submissive. It's more of a instinctual thing. Most of my relationships have come out through social engagement. It has been on the very rarest of occasion that I've actually gone through the process of a official negotiation. In fact, I could probably say that's only happened twice. It's been sort of an organic development with most of my relationships. It's never been all that official. The one time that I did go through the negotiation process, it was very informative and very useful, I think. It did take some of the romance out of the procedure. You know, there's this sort of ideal in my mind, and I think many others, that you will meet your perfect match, and there'll be this chemistry, and you'll have this sort of, I don't know, take them back to your personal dungeon and everything will go fine kind of thing. And in my case, sometimes that happened. You know, sometimes there was enough communication ahead of time, and it was all very casual in nature and not with a checklist or a contract or anything. And things just developed naturally that way. But you have to be able to, as the book has intimated in a couple of instances now, you have to be able to separate fantasy from reality. Even if your sexuality is turned on by BDSM, even if the idea of being a dominant or being a submissive intoxicates you, you have to remember that when it comes down to it, you as the dominant are going to be manipulating someone's body. You're going to be playing with their emotions, perhaps for pleasure, perhaps for fear. That could be pleasure for some. You're going to be putting them at risk if you are not careful. So when you are participating, you have to maintain this line between the fantasy of the moment and the reality of what you are doing. And as the submissive, you too can't get completely so lost in your subspace, in the fantasy, that you are not looking out for your own safety. Now, of course, these concerns will hopefully lessen over time as a relationship develops and a trust is built. It'll become less necessary to keep an eye on these things, both on one side of the equation or the other. But especially in the early days, especially as things are warming up, you have to keep one eye in reality and the other eye on your pleasure. It's a careful balance. It's not easy. But this is why it is important, at least at the outset, to have a filter for who you're going to let into your little secret society of two. And I don't have any advice for you specifically, in the sense that I don't know you. I don't know what you like. I don't know what you want to do. You know you better than anybody else. Try to find someone who wants to know you just as well. As always, thank you for listening.